Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Picture your last group ride. You had a great time. You're back at the lot. You're talking bikes, progression, tech, nutrition, fitness. You love bikes. We love bikes. Let's drop in. Sage, how are you?
Oh, Danny, I am doing so well. I have so much gratitude today. What a special week. I can't wait to get into it. Danny, how are you doing?
Equally, gratitude and appreciation for mountain biking and everything that it brings to us and the friendships that we develop through mountain biking.
Oh,
I love you, buddy.
I love you too,
awesome.
man.
And all the people that we get to meet and hang out with and all the people that are involved and that you do meet in the parking lots and mountain biking is awesome. It's just a great sport and it's such a great community. So everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in and let's get into it. We are going to be reviewing podcast number 34. These pro level mountain bike slabs were amazing and terrifying.
Yeah, it was.
And the accompanying hot take was steep slabs, forget everything you've been taught, advanced MTB, which was tips on how to ride those slabs. And boy, did we get some great feedback. And we took some of this feedback to the trail and we're starting to practice it. And we have some results to share with everybody. And we want to hear your results. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail. And YouTube comments on anything that you're riding, any steeps, any technique questions that you have on slabs or on anything. So I wanted to highlight the response from Rylan, who was one of the riders that we met on that day at Natalie, where we rode those crazy slabs. Rylan was amazing and really balanced and really impressive.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to hear the response of the guys that were on that ride and that ride there all the time. And Rylan wrote, everything about the Natalie slabs was so well said. Thank you for riding with us and showcasing this group of riders. Aaron has had a major influence on the riding in this region. I'm so happy to be part of this awesome riding scene. You guys need to come back for more. There are way more features than what you got to see that day, ... which I am grateful that they want us to return. Yeah. I'm grateful that we might have the opportunity to ride with that group of riders again, and I'm terrified.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean, that wasn't clickbait. When we said these pro-level mountain bike slabs were amazing and terrifying, like, that's real.
Oh my gosh, it was mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing. But I tell you what, you couldn't have a better set of coaches. It was like coaches camp. It was the ratio was like 5 coaches to 2 noobs. You know, it was like unbelievable. Yeah. What a great group. And yeah, I can't wait to go back, man.
I mean, I think about where we were in the beginning of the summer with jumping, and you know, here we are. I think we're further along with slabs than we were when we started to learn how to jump, especially you. And I would say you're a little ahead of me on the tech game. I don't know how you quantify that. Yeah, but you know, it just goes to show, like, when you start something, it seems like impossible, seems really hard. And then you just kind of keep practicing and keep manifesting, and more opportunities come up, and use your intuition, and we're unlimited and things can happen. So listener, whatever you want to get better at on the bike or in life, it's totally in there. Stay in the moment. Don't let the invitation to go into fear, the invitation to get into distraction, all those thought invitations that always come up to us. Stay in the moment, and we're living proof. We're living proof. And you are too. Whoever's listening to this, I bet you're living proof as well. I bet you there's a lot of things that you look back on and you're like, yeah, that really worked out well for me. And it's going to.
You know what was crazy about that ride, Danny, is the thing that I came away with the most wasn't the slabs, but we got a lot of life lessons out of that ride. I mean, I learned a lot about myself, you know, and I think you did too. And we left that ride and we talked just as much about how to ride these slabs and, you know, how to conquer those fears. But then it kind of led into how we go about our life and riding in general. You know, I learned a tremendous amount. And I think that's the reason why I can't wait to go back. You know, I love learning. Yeah.
I mean, we talk about this all the time, and I love it. The synchronicities between mountain biking and life. Yeah. And I just think that Mountain biking is so challenging. I mean, it can be, depending on what you want to do. It can be so challenging. It can push our limits.
Yeah.
It can bring up these fears, and it can bring up these opportunities to overcome. It can get you in that flow state, or where you have to be in the flow state. Because if you're not trusting yourself, then it's more dangerous. But if you are, then everything just is so easy and smooth. And boy, isn't that in life sometimes? Like, we have these things that we build up in our minds are going to be this albatross. Like, I got this, whatever it might be, something at work or something at home or someone not getting along or whatever it is. And you're thinking about it. And those negative thoughts don't serve you. And when you just let it go and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to deal with this in the moment. I trust myself. And then everything kind of works out for the best.
Yeah.
And mountain biking gives you that opportunity. I don't want to keep having these really tough lessons in life. I want to have an easy life. And I'm not that I want tough lessons on the mountain bike, but mountain biking presents difficult things because it's riding bikes in crazy ways that it's so rewarding when you do it right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've had this conversation before, but I don't know many other sports that can get you to that level. That's so many variables, and there's so many levels to it. I think we had talked about rock climbing being like the closest thing, maybe parkour. I don't know, but it's crazy. It really is an amazing, amazing sport. And I'm grateful for it all, man.
We talked a lot on that podcast and on the following podcast about the correct technique for riding slabs.
Yeah.
And the comment from Brian on a Bike, who is, a mountain bike instructor and pro level rider, and definitely respect he teaches at Mountain Bike Academy with Jeff Lenoski. So I take everything he says pretty seriously. And he says one way to think about it, it's a technical feature. If you were on flat ground, you would want to be in your proper attack riding position to give your limbs the movements and body separation you need to let the bike do what it needs. Slabs are no different. You want to keep yourself parallel with the ground with the same position as you would if it were flat. If you freeze frame any of those guys and tilt the image to level the horizon, they are in typical riding positions, which is what you're used to doing and where you have the most muscle memory.
Yo.
So your tip of, you're going to shift back as the bike tips over the slab, but then get forward again, which is really get centered again, get back in attack position, sounds like it's spot on. And I don't know why. What is the instinct to go so far back? I mean, is it only fear?
It's all fear.
It's just fear.
Well, it's fear, and it's also a lot
There's no more control by leaning back. There's nothing to be gained.
There's no advantage, and
seemed like such a good idea.
I know it does. You know what?
This feels better back here.
Yeah, it does. And you know what? You're kind of justified because in every tutorial and every book and every magazine, they all tell you to get your weight over the bottom bracket. So if your weight is over the bottom bracket, you're naturally going to be trying to push back as you get steeper and steeper. But Brian's right. If you just turn the horizon, they're really in just attack position.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. And by the way, all three of them were different.
Well, they all have different attack positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm kind of curious to see what they look like going through a rock garden. You know what I mean? Like, is it the same position that we see them as comfortable going down these slabs? Because some of them were more upright, some of them were more down and elbows, bent wide. And I always had the get low and get lower. That the beginning of the podcast, I talked about my comfort of just get low, get lower.
That's right.
And we've kind of been talking about the past couple of months that I'm not really doing that as much anymore, especially going into jumps. I'm like, now that I've got muscle memory and I start to feel and I'm instinctive, I don't need to tell myself get low, get lower. I'm in the right position.
Yeah.
And I've always envied your movement on the bike, how dynamic you are on the bike, just instinctively.
Yeah.
But I think on these slabs, I think for me, the get low mantra might be a good, because I am a mantra guy, because I am someone that needs to tell myself instructions sometimes, usually just one or two. If I give myself too many instructions, then I start to.
Right. Yeah. Overload.
The voices in my head are overwhelming. Would you pick voices? Pick one voice. Would you all just shut up for a minute? About to fall off of this mountain. So, boy. The voice that says get low, get lower, that one's been pretty good to me. So I'm going to go back to that one. But yeah, it's really interesting. I just felt like getting back was okay. But watching those videos, watching this, if you haven't seen the hot take on steep slabs, forget everything you've been taught, then definitely check it out. It's not that long, but it's really, really cool. And when you say that like everything that you read is to keep your weight over the bottom bracket, and so when you're going down something steep, you're naturally going to rotate backwards. Are you saying that those books and videos and all that instruction is only for that 90%, that they're not giving instruction for that 10%? I mean, I know if you looked for it, you could probably find it, but
it's funny because that's exactly where I was going with this, you know, and I don't want to be the guy that people are like, oh, Sage said, but when you're doing an instructional class, you want to kind of figure out a technique that's going to work for most people most of the time. You don't want to be like, well, here's what we're going to do for every instance, except for these things. These are really on the outskirts. We don't even know if you're going to get to that level. But, you know, in these instances, like you don't want to confuse people. So let's give something that works for most people all the time. And that position works almost all the time. And so when you see people at these classes, you'll know because they're hinged at the hip, you know, and they're really low, and that's great. That works. It's really good. You're really stable on the bike.
I've taken these classes. Yeah.
So, and your center of gravity is lower, right? So you're getting all your mass lower to the ground, and that's awesome. But for me, I think the next level up of that is actually being able to change your level, because by changing your level, you're able to get more out of your bike, more range of movement. So if you're up and able to get down and then up again. So if you're moving around on the bike, you're, as you used to say, my altitude, you're going to be able to get more dynamic on the bike. And I think that's the next level. You know, when you watch these pro level riders, they are dynamic. They are up and down and over and out. And yeah.
Which is where we're going. We're going towards pro level, listener. You're on the train with us. We're going to pro level, which means obviously they're gonna have to lower the bar for pro level considerably. We made it!
Wait, we're letting these guys in? These guys are coming?
What are we calling ourselves? If these guys are pros, what are we? There's got to be another level now. We got to add something else above pro. Yeah. So what I was going to say as you were talking about that is, I think the difference is doing a technique. And when we say intuitive, so like I'm doing a technique that, okay, if I do this, then the bike will feel comfortable. And as I'm riding, I'm like, oh yeah, that works. I feel safe. I feel in control. I feel good.
Yeah.
By doing this, I am making the bike, so I'm pushing the bike into the ground. I'm getting into a position that is giving me the most traction on this really steep slab. And to do that, I'm going to be high here. I'm going to get low here. I'm moving my weight around in such a way that on the turn, I am now getting side knobs to hook up into the dirt.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like robotically practicing things, but there's that, when you get to the next level, to get there to that really intuitive pro level and beyond, there's that awareness in space of where the bike is, and awareness of weight and how your weight shift is going to affect the performance of the bike, how it's going to affect the weight on the tires in turns, on slabs. And so you're moving from technique, and I felt that on the jumping.
Yes.
Where I've moved from like, okay, do this and this and this, and talking about it, to like, okay, now the jumping is really just kind of coming, and I'm still new at it, and I still have my moments where I'm like, okay, do this and practice. But for the most part, it just happens now, which is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just riding the right way long enough. But I've been doing tech for a long, and then a lot of tech, you know, that my thinking mind goes away and I just ride. When I did that double down feature or stunt double, I forget which one it is, double down, and I got offline. And you and Stick were like, boy, you fought that the whole way through.
Oh, stunt double, yes.
Stunt double, yeah.
Yeah.
I got offline and I completed the feature, which is several moves, but like just out of instinct, just going. You know, like I got offline and I just fought through it the whole time. But so that's in there. And it's just, for me, it's not in there on Slabs yet. And listener, what are you working on? Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail or YouTube comments. Do you understand what I'm talking about in moving from technique to instinct? Your feedback on what I was saying there, Sage.
I was about to say, you didn't bring it up, but you're jumping. Like, you used to be a low, get low guy. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you, the bar turn doesn't happen if you're a get low and get lower guy. Like, in order to do the bar turn, you have to be a little bit higher in order to turn your body. You are instinctively changing. You don't even know it's happening, but little by little, you're actually standing up taller on the jump. Now, is it safer to just stay low? Of course. Of course. That is a great technique. No one's saying that don't do that. That is a fantastic technique. I just want to be very clear. But the next level is, when you're watching these, what is that? The Crankworks where they have the huge free ride?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has those huge jumps, and you watch those guys and gals.
Yes.
And they get low, but then they get high, and they're doing all kinds of crazy things. And what I'm saying is, one style doesn't work for everything. If you want to be the most dynamic rider, then you have to get out of that shell and start to experiment a little bit. And this is where I get nervous, because I don't want someone to be like, well, Sage told me, in moderation, like, practice, and just watch the people that you think are amazing. When we go out to the trail, we ran into Zach this weekend at Mount Penn, very young rider, very talented. I watched him on the bike. He was whipping and throwing and standing and all. I mean, it was unbelievable. One of the best young riders I've seen in a very long time. And we've seen that from Jimmy and Jack and all kinds of people. I watch these people and it's like, okay, I want to do that. Okay, how do we get there?
We did a whole episode on it.
We did. I want to do that. We did.
We saw Jack and Jimmy. And
yeah.
Wow. And now when I followed Zach, who was getting really high and really steezy and really cool, I was getting pretty high and I was doing a bar turn and I was like, this feels like, I don't know how to do the tail whip yet, but like, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this guy's doing things that I can never do. It was like, yeah, I'm getting there. This is happening.
Yeah.
And, I'm almost 50.
Hey now.
Anything's possible. Like we're doing this. We're doing this. And
the other thing that I noticed, Danny, and we were supposed to get to our rides, but it looks like we're talking about our rides, and that's okay because it's really fitting for this moment. I was able to tackle the 38 special slab, and I was watching the video on how I did it. And if I was in that attack position, I don't know that I would do that slab, and here's why. When you creep up over that, I actually noticed myself stand way up and look over my stem down at the slab to kind of see where I was going. That slab is so consequential, excuse me. There's so much happening there. There's the rubble at the end. There's the tree off to the side. If you're in attack position, you're not ready unless you have like photographic memory and you just like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I got up high. I looked over the stem, then pushed the bike over and then readjusted. I mean, that's what I'm talking about being dynamic, being comfortable on the bike, to get to the edge of that slab, get to the edge, look over, and then decide to push off of it.
What you can't tell from the video is how janky the entrance to this slab is.
Oh my God. Yeah.
To do these big slabs, especially the one like 38 special where you're rolling in, the ones that Natalie, like they were clipping in and then just letting go of trees, just dropping off. Some of them you were rolling in also.
Yeah. And
I'm sure they have a zillion there, and I'm sure those guys can do, they're unlimited on the type of slabs they can do. It's mind boggling. But I watched a YouTube video and they talked about super steep slab technique, and it was Pacific Northwest where they were demonstrating this, where those slabs are all over the place. Yeah. And they called it the peak and push. And it was the peak over, and then push, and then push into it. Yeah, so that is very much a thing, is to peak over, see the line. And so to do some of these types of slabs where you're pushing over an edge, you really need to be able to trail stand. You really need to be able to come in slow. I mean, I guess if you can't trail stand, you're probably not at the level where you're attempting some of these slabs. I hope not. Like, trail stand first in your driveway with no cliffs around you. Yes.
Such a good point.
And when last time I did 38 special, I went up there and I did a trail stand for what felt like a couple of seconds. It probably wasn't, but just okay, and then go. And Yeah, you definitely want to be able to see. And if you're in a fixed position, I think the fixed position stuff really it's great for beginners. It's great for intermediate. You'll probably get you to advanced intermediate, maybe some expert trails.
Yes.
But as you really start moving forward, then you're going to have to start developing more by feel. More by feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to get the most out of your riding, I think that's where it's at, is just being comfortable on the bike and moving around. And on that 38 special that you did, Danny, if you looked at yourself, you're not in attack position. You're in your trail stand and you're peeking over. You were standing way up on your bike and then you pushed and dropped in. So you are a very dynamic rider. I can attest to that.
And when I am doing something that I'm nervous about, when I'm doing something that I'm concerned about, I will go back to some of these mantras that work for me. Get low.
That's right.
Get low and get lower, because that is for 90% of the things. And honestly, if you get into the steep slabs and then get back into that attack position, you're going to be in good shape. Giving yourself arms and legs and suspension, being in attack position, having your arms and legs bent, and having your chin over your handlebars is going to be good. There's almost not a situation where that's going to be wrong. So
I think we got a comment this week that said exactly that about the suspension, didn't we?
Yes. So thank you. Very nice.
Segue.
Who's the host here? Like, segue, like that's a pretty common host term to use. We just segued away from the topic that you segued into. Segue's going wrong. YouTube. That's the name of the segment. When segues go wrong, and then you just end up talking about nothing. You're going all over the place. Wait, what were we talking about? Okay, here we go. We had an awesome comment on the Hot Take Steep Slabs. Forget everything you've been taught from at Headman Ronery. Same as dropping into a skateboard half pipe. After you drop in, you've got to get at 90 degrees to angle your riding down. The reason you pump the transition at the bottom is to let the whole bike suspension squat rather than just the front or rear. Too much at front squat and you're over the bars, too much at rear and the bike will flick out and your arse will smack you in the bottom of the transition. I like that he used arse, probably a listener, though maybe a British guy. I don't know, Headman, I'm not sure, but you're a big fan of arse, right?
I love arse. Wait, that sounds terrible. You set me up. I
can just see your dating profile. I love arse. I like big arse and I cannot lie. Said no one ever.
You set me up.
You're a big fan of arse, right? I didn't mean to do that to you. I apologize. Are you a big fan of arse or are you a big fan of big arse? But I meant the word, not the actual.
I'll take both.
Yeah. Ladies, if you're listening, go ahead and back that arse up. All right. Well, there are so many cool things. I thought this comment was so awesome. I love the skateboard analogy because clearly when you drop into a half pipe, you're dropping all into a pool, into a almost vertical wall, right? And they're not falling off the skateboard. Yeah. Right? So how are they staying on the skateboard? I don't really understand the physics of that. I guess the same way we're staying on a bike with flat pedals, but we can kind of turn our feet. But it must be the same sort of physics where you're pushing into the half pipe. You're pushing the bike into the slab.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not just, so you're dynamic on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I you know what? Add skateboarding to the list of sports. I was trying to think of sports rock climbing. Skateboarding is very similar in many ways, so.
Yes. Yeah. Probably is. And it probably has a very high vibe also because those guys are like, all practicing tricks together and have the community. And I don't know. I'm not a skateboarder, but Ride and Life 1 at Gmail or YouTube comments if you've been skateboarding, what the vibe is like there. And so that's cool.
Yeah. But, I think you have to be pretty fit to do skateboarding too. What was it? Redmond? What was his name?
Headman.
Didn't he say something about accessing the the shocks at the same time into the transition. Was there some bit about that?
Yeah, the reason you pump the transition at the bottom is to let the whole bike suspension squat rather than just the front or rear.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting. And I'm wondering that, first of all, my first thought was, that makes a lot of sense. One. Two, is that possible? On some of I'm starting to think like about, some of the steeper slabs. It's kind of impossible to access both shocks at the same time. Your front shock is naturally going to hit first, right? I need him to, I think I need, what I'm saying is I think I need more explanation on how to access both shocks at the same time into the transition. Because the transitions that I'm thinking of at the bottom of a slab, your front shock is going to naturally hit first.
Well, if you're centered, if your weight is centered,
right? It's weird.
In between the two shocks. If it's centered in between the front and rear wheel, and then you're pushing the back. I mean, it's also quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question. It made sense when I read it. It felt like it made sense. I thought that
me too.
The skateboard comment was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? That's brilliant. Like, of course, there's other sports where you're doing this and you're sticking to the wall. And by pushing into the skateboard, the same thing. They probably, when they're transitioning at the bottom, they're pushing with both legs, even though the front wheel of the skateboard and the back wheel of the skateboard are going to be flattening out at different times. Your momentum is going in, your energy is going into the transition, and you're trying to equal that out with both wheels.
Okay. I'm thinking the skateboard wheels are so much closer together. That's
Maybe.
one of the geo things that we talk about in bikes. The bikes have gotten longer, so on a skateboard, you'll hit that transition. There's barely a difference between the front wheel and your back wheel hitting the it's like milliseconds. On a bike, it's going to be much more exaggerated. Your front wheel is most likely going to be a lot farther out, especially if a new geo bike. And so I can't picture how my shocks would absorb at the same time. And I'd like some more clarification behind that because I'm interested.
RideLife1 at Gmail, YouTube comments, Headman, or anyone that has this technique dialed in. Let us know how that's working for you. I think that your body weight is probably 95% of it, and then what you're doing as far as pushing into it is probably just like refining it to where we saw the guys at Natalie that were so good at it.
Yeah,
I know that as a guy who has been leaning too far back on scarier slabs occasionally. I did feel that, like on that warm up, that practice slab at Natalie, I felt the seat hit me in the arse afterwards. I was too far back and it popped up. The suspension popped up and hit me in the arse. And then on the other ones, I was centered. Everything felt fine. The one I fell off of, I never got to the bottom. So we'll never know.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. And we did ask for people to put out what their favorite slab was, steepest slab, and we're still open to that. What slabs have you ridden that are really cool or that you recommend? And so Jeff Jackson, MTB, one of our great commenters and great listeners, thank you, Jeff. And so he put in steepest slab 50 year. I wonder which one that was and if we did it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of 50.
There.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Longest slab, he says, approximately a half a mile in Moab. So that's, I think, on every mountain biker's bucket list. Yeah. And then most technical is Highline alternate line in Sedona. And we will be getting to Sedona, I'm sure, very soon. Next Arizona trip, that would be.
Yeah. Have you done Highline?
I don't think so. I've done 2 of the 3, I think, double black Sedona trails. And I think Highline's the hardest or the most consequential one. And I don't think I've done that because I've always been by myself.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get that.
Yeah. We'll have to do that. You know what I was thinking? I was thinking this today. I was listening to one of our podcasts, one of our past podcasts, and we were talking about one of our listeners who had done the Escalade drop. He's one of your Patreon.
Yes. Steve, right? Steve April?
Steve, yes.
Steve, yeah.
And your question was if he was by himself.
Yeah.
When he did it. And he did reply that he was by himself. And he had, Yeah.
Wow.
And then we kind of talked about how oftentimes we'll wait until we have a friend to do something that looks scary to us. And I was wondering if a technique, as we talked about last week, about listening to our intuition and really knowing when we're ready to go and do something, that we're doing it for the right reasons. I was wondering if another technique we could add to that list would be, would I do this if I was alone? You know what I mean? Like, what's the real benefit of having someone there? Calling the ambulance? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I fell right at you and you refused to catch me. I mean, that's as much as I can use a friend for. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay, my friend is here. If I'm gonna fall directly at him at like 50 miles per hour. And you were like, tree. There's a tree here that's gonna catch you. So, but what do you think about that technique? Like, would I do this if I was by myself? I mean, is that something that can take you out of the wrong reason thought train and get you back into intuition?
I think that's a great question that you should ask yourself. I think that's a wonderful addition. However,
you should use it because you've been doing things that you shouldn't be doing.
No. But your second question was, I mean, what's the reason why you have a second person? It's exactly that. If you get hurt, someone can help you, Right. I mean, that I am so impressed that Steve went for that drop. That is a big time drop, and there is consequence. That is not one where you're like, I can half kind of do this and get away with a roll. There's no rolling off of this. You commit and you send it.
Hold on. You had a perfectly good chance to say half arse. We did a whole bit on arse, and you just skipped over it. You just skipped over arse. You just said half. You're an arse guy. We've established that for this episode, at least. We're gonna get Ride and Laugh t-shirts. You could be a Dan guy. You could be a Sage guy. But if you get the Sage t-shirt, it says arse guy.
Arse on the back. Yeah.
The Sage guy. Yes, I agree. Steve knew the skills were in there. He was very, very confident, and he said he had ridden by it 100 times. So, sometimes it's just unlocking that, and having a friend there in case I get hurt is kind of a negative mentality, but at the same time, you almost want someone there to encourage you and maybe show you a line, or just, I'm out here by myself, and if something happens, it doesn't feel right. That's always where I am, was like, I don't want to be doing this by myself. Like, it seems too consequential. But, the flip side of that is if someone's there, it's because I'm doing something risky.
Yeah. I mean, I don't go into the mindset of like, oh, that person's there for the chance that I get hurt. Now, that thought doesn't cross my brain, but I'm saying, like, in the aftermath of things, or even before the math. Is that aftermath and before the math? Is there a before the math? Well, before the math, maybe you're thinking about that. Like, all right, I'm with my good buddies. This is a good time to try this, and I don't know that I would. I don't know. We'll find out. I don't know that I would. I'm trying to think of, like, Natalie. Would I go to Natalie by myself and try those slabs? And I don't think that I would.
No, I've looked at so many things in Arizona where I'm like, I'm not doing this with someone not around, because if something goes wrong, there's nobody here. Like, who knows how long you'd be out there. So it's just something, I guess it's just an extra thing in your head. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail, YouTube comments, as far as doing things by yourself or versus in a group or with a friend. It's just like, there's just that extra level of, if something were to go wrong, I would feel fine. And I guess you're not, I mean, I'm never thinking when I have you there, now things can go wrong. Like, I'm if anything, I'm more confident. But if things go wrong and there's no one there, it's a lot less confident. It's a lot less confident.
But your initial point,
and don't do anything risky, but when you're by yourself. I mean, it's bad enough getting hurt. Don't get hurt and be by yourself. So that's just smart. Listen,
to your first point, which is that a good question to ask her? I think that's an excellent question to ask yourself. If the answer was yes, then that's a pretty good sign that your confidence and your skill level is ready. Right. So I think that's a great question to ask yourself. Yeah, I really do. Yeah.
I don't know how many people are doing things I don't know how many people do. Are we progressing? Do we push our limits more than most riders? Do you think? I kind of feel like we do. This might be a topic.
You know what? No, but I've wanted to call you out on this. Not call you out because that's not the right word, but like we've been saying the word push your limits. And is that appropriate? Like, we're not pushing our limits. We're first of all, we're limitless. That's one.
Ooh,
and then
there are no limits.
two, we're doing things. We're not telling people to go past your skill level, right? We're not saying do things that are outside of your comfort zone. Well, if that's the case, then what are you pushing? You're pushing nothing, right?
Yeah.
You're progressing.
Well, I'm pushing. Like last week when you said, or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Natalie, like you have to be 100%. You didn't do the B-line slab, B-E-E line slab, because you were 90%, 95%, maybe 98 at a couple points when you looked at it, but you didn't get to 100. And I got to 90 and did it, and I fell. So I've been thinking about this a lot.
That is a good point.
Yeah,
that is pushing your limit.
Right.
And you hit the limit.
And there's things that I'm approaching on the trail that I get nervous about that I know I can do them. Like Steve on the Escalade drop, like me on the waterfall on National Trail. I've done it probably the last 5 or 6 times. I flowed down that technical downhill portion, but I still get nervous every time it comes up. But I know I can do it. So I've done it before. I can do it again. And then there's the Hans Ray gap jump again on Sunday, and it still seems scary, but it's just like the skills are just totally in there. So it's a fine line. But you and I really seem to love, I guess everyone loves progression. I guess it just depends where you are.
Yeah. Progression.
It's fun.
Yeah, progression doesn't mean drops and jumps. Progression can mean everything. We say it all the time. Maybe progression for you is getting up a climb that you didn't get before, getting a PR on a segment. Progression is just the improvement, the betterment of one's skill and ability. And when you're able to do that, that opens up more doors and more avenues, right? So for us, we're chasing jumps lately, and so now we're getting to bigger and bigger jumps, and now we're at the level we're just adding stees to it, right? But there was a time when we were single speeding and the smallest molehill was like the hugest thing. And our group would sit there and be like, who's going to make it up this climb? Who out of this group today is making it up that climb? I remember driving to the trailhead and being like, I think I'm gonna get that climb today, and that was progression for us then, and then once one person got that climb, then it was like, oh, it's doable. Now we all have to get it. That was an awesome feeling. I remember that. So this podcast is for everyone. And even though we talk about things that we're doing, that I hope that it's relatable to everybody, no matter what your, dream is, or dream is not the right word, but I'm talking about what your goals are. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, the goals are to have fun and to feel good afterwards.
Yes.
Mountain biking is interesting, and it's a little bit odd because the consequence can be very painful. I mean, look, in football you can get hurt, in basketball you can get hurt, but those are kind of like side effects where I guess mountain biking as well. If you stay within the realm of mountain biking, you have even more control. Unless you had some sort of mechanical failure, you have even more control than in football. If someone hits you, the wrong way, then you're out of control. But mountain biking, you're in control of what level of risk you want to take and how much you're staying within your skill set. Are you at 100%, or is 98% good enough? And 98 out of 100, you're good. But there's a couple falls in there once in a while. Yeah.
Well, the difference is you're not playing against someone else. It's you, and that's it. No one's inflicting pain on you. It's you. You are the master of your ship, captain of your ship. And that's a pretty cool feeling. And that brought up the question that Anthony brought up to me. Why are you guys doing what you're doing? It's like we're choosing to do these things, So I don't know, man. It's been a wild and awesome journey.
Yeah.
I know we kind of got off the topic, but speaking of wild and cool journeys, we had a pretty good time at the Phoenixville Bike Park on Saturday. We talked a lot about our Sunday ride, and there's still a couple more pieces I want to get to on that Sunday ride. But that Saturday ride at the Phoenixville Bike Park is one of those places where we have been progressing and adding more style. And I got to tell you, every time we go there, we run into more cool new people, and I'm learning more things. And it was just such an awesome time. This week we ran into our buddy Steven, who we met at Trexler. And then he brought his friend Fred, who was who had a BMX background, and he was so much fun to watch. And then who else did we run into over there? Now I'm drawing a blank here.
There was a guy that we met while we were there named Mike, who was also on a Banshee hardtail.
Yes, Mike. Yes,
and he was just practicing jumping and really like casing everything when we got there. And by the end, was pretty much clearing everything.
So that was yes,
yeah, that was really cool to see.
And I ran into David and Will.
Yeah.
David, my Patreon member. Yeah. Oh, what a great day.
And you were coaching those guys, and David was like, I was thinking he was saying that they wanted to learn how to jump. You were working with them on the intermediate jump line, which has a great intro to jumping.
Yes.
Tabletop. And then you were working with them on staying centered and all the tips that you were giving them. And by the end, like, oh yeah, these guys definitely progressed that day. They were definitely getting better. They were definitely starting to clear the jump and look comfortable and get that arc. And it was really cool. And David's like, I thought about taking a class, and I ran at the stage, and that's kind of just happened. The universe provides.
Yeah. How about Stick? Unbelievable. Hasn't ridden for like, 2-3 weeks, gets to the he's such a natural jumper. I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of that.
Well, I'm happy for him. And yeah, he is really comfortable in the air. You're looking fantastic. I'm getting more comfortable. I mean, I was listening to that same podcast that was like maybe, I don't know, 5 weeks ago, and it wasn't that long. And I was talking how Stick and I went to Phoenixville Bike Park one morning, and I was just saying by the end we were clearing that last jump without being with like instinctively, and how amazing that was. And I'm like, fast forward to Saturday, and 5 is like, it's easy. They're all easy. They're all just like, it's just like, what am I going to do when I'm up here? And getting a little bit higher and refining it. I mean, the instinct has just gone through the roof. It's awesome. It's so cool. And it's just that repetition. And I even said to Stick at one point, like, I'm ready for the next hardest line, and it's just really cool.
I think easy is the wrong word. You're comfortable. Because that jump is still hard. It's a hard jump.
Yeah.
But your comfort with that, there's no more nervousness. You get onto that and you're just natural on that. And you're so comfortable now that we're like,
I trust it.
You trust it. And let's introduce some new things. And it was just it was everything that the podcast is about. It had progression. It had high fives and fist bumps. It had talking, talking bikes.
Oh yeah.
Just a fantastic day, man. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And we were trying not to get too tired because we rode on Friday at Mount Penn, and then we rode again on Sunday at Mount Penn. Before I get into those rides, which we're really excited to tell everyone about, I do want to remind everyone to rate and subscribe on your podcast player, and to like and subscribe on YouTube, and leave us a comment in YouTube, and let it play completely on YouTube. That really helps the algorithm, and make sure that you let it download on your podcast player. So we appreciate everybody. And if you're on Apple and you want to leave us a review, that's fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the pod. We appreciate that. Mount Penn, I mean, this was Sunday. We went with Stick, and we dragged him all over the mountain. And there's the front side and the back side. And I mean, the Mount Penn's huge. It's got all the tech. If you've been listening to us, Mount Penn has all the tech that you could want. And it's got these awesome jump lines. And we did a little bit of everything. You went in with a couple of things, a couple of goals. Yeah. Which were what?
I really wanted to get to Hansray, which is that step down, gap, jump, drop. It's like a hybrid. It's a hybrid thing. And I also wanted to take a look at 38 Special. After doing Natalie, I really wanted to see if I could do that beeline, because I think the 38 Specials is about the length of the end of beeline. So not counting the dirt part, just the slab. And I kind of wanted to see if I looked at it, would I do it? And then I also wanted to practice the techniques that Aaron was talking about on Sam Malone. So
Sam Malone slab.
Yeah, right. So in terms of tech, we kind of warmed up on some different things, but those were the three that I was focused on. And my goodness, man, what a day. If there was ever a Dan and Sage ride, that was it. It had everything.
Yeah, so we went to the Sam Malone slab, which is pretty steep. I mean, if you can fall off of this thing, and it's got a little bit of a sniper exit.
Yeah, you have.
So in the rain, on a hardtail, but yes, it was very interesting because I went down at my normal way and it was okay. And then you really kind of like encouraged me, like, go back up and see if you can lean a little bit more forward. See if you can get a little bit more into that attack position and not be so far back. And rode it again. And this time a little bit more forward and a little bit more in control. So starting to dial that in. I lost a little bit of confidence for sure at Natalie when I fell. And so, I can do these other slabs.
Yeah.
But I'm now thinking a little bit more than I want to.
Yeah.
And I've done 38 special before, but I wasn't really thinking I was going to do it that day because I had my confidence shaken a little bit. And, for me, walking away from something that I'm not completely comfortable with is a win also. I'm tired of hitting the deck.
Yeah. I was really proud of you.
Yeah. I really want to feel good at the end of the ride. And so, I was at 90%. I was at 95% when I saw you do it. Yeah. I could do this. I've done it before. But I wasn't at 100, and it just didn't feel right to me. And so, but I got to say, you did the Sam Malone slab, and you got into that attack position, and I don't think I heard a skid. I mean, your wheels, like you really looked like you were on level ground, and you sounded like you were on level ground. Your control was awesome. And then we went through and we did a whole bunch of we call it the 5 fingers of death because there's these 5 tech features, and we rolled through them all. And actually, we all did great on those. We got over the first one, and then we went through the rock bridge on the first try, which is a really tough technical feature. Very, very tight. And all 3 of us got through it first try, which I don't think has ever happened before. And then we rolled through another feature, and then we get up to 38 special. You took a look at it. You were just riding so well that you really felt comfortable with it. You did your run-ups. And then when you went for it, like every run-up you did, I thought you looked great. And I couldn't see where your pedals were because of where I was standing. The hardest, like we said, the hardest thing is getting into that on a good line and feeling smooth. Yeah. But your last 2 run-ups, you were like, that was it. I had it. And so when you finally went, I was just like, yeah, he's got it. And you looked awesome. You looked so in control, so smooth. Danny. Yeah. It was really cool. I was really, really stoked for you. What were you thinking? How'd it feel?
I felt great on every run up. I couldn't figure out how to get my dominant foot, which is goofy foot. I couldn't figure out how to get that pedal to be in the front. I didn't want to go with my weak foot. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think you like to ride right foot forward, but I actually like to ride with my left foot forward. And because of how janky that entrance is, when I'd get to the peak, I'd realize that the wrong foot was forward. And I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to get this timing right, which is why it took so many run-ups to get there. But that's part of it, right? So the confidence was there, but now could I get the technique just right? And I wasn't going to go until I knew I had the foot in the right spot. That was the key for me. Once I got there and I figured out how to time that pedal stroke, it was just like, let it go. And I don't know if we've ever actually talked about this, but the thing that makes 38 special really difficult is in most slabs, you can just kind of roll to the edge and you kind of fall off of this. You have to work to get to the edge of this. So it's almost impossible. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do this without putting a trail stand in. So you're kind of like standing there, like talking yourself into death, which is not the right word, but you're like, okay, oh my gosh. And then you're like, do it. You have to push yourself over. Oh, it's the scariest feeling
you really
ever.
do. Peek and push. Yeah. It's the peek and push.
Peek and push. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Only on this one, it's not so much a peek, like you're staring at it because to get up to it, then it requires that a shift in weight and a half a pedal stroke. It requires that commitment. It's not just rolling up to it and rolling over it. It's really technical getting into it, and there's just really no way to show that. And no one recording it is going to be like, let me record the top, because the side is awesome. That's the shot.
Let me get the top. Yeah.
It's just a sniper entrance though. Yeah. It's crazy. So that was awesome. And so we did all this tech. We were feeling good. and Mount Penn's awesome. So we roll over to Skyline, and on Friday we had unlocked the bottom portion of the trail, which is 2 shark fins and a huge step down. And true to every other part of the trail that Dirt Sculpt has built there, everything just works perfect.
Unbelievable.
And so, yeah, we sessioned and you did the big step down first. I mean, it is a send. It is a big send. The picture was really cool because you're in the air for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's just like, if you're going at the speed of the trail and you pop off of this thing, it can almost ride it like a drop. I mean, it's nice to pop it a little bit, but you can almost ride it like a drop. It sends you perfectly. It's just, it's awesome. And it's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. We hit that thing and it was just, there was no question, at least for me. Like I looked at it and I was like, there's no question. And that was a great feeling to know that all the work that we had been putting up to, because that step down was, I had actually built that up. You know how we've gotten to play things and it's just like what you've pictured. And then you look at it and you're like, oh my God, this is so much worse. This was the opposite. I had built this up into my head and I got to it and I was like, this is so much smaller than I thought it was going to be. And that was a great feeling. I felt like that at Hans Ray. I walked up and I was like, oh, this feels smaller to me. Not easier. It just felt smaller. I felt so comfortable. So before I even hit the step down, changes perception. Unbelievable. And we sent that thing butter. In fact, we sent it so well. We're like, why don't we go up and see if we can figure out this top side transition piece to get into it. So this bottom section, the lower of Skyline, has 2 pieces to it. There's a berm into a transition that's kind of like a shark fin. So we sessioned that, and then there's that other shark fin. I don't know if I've ever gotten that one. It's the shark fin before the step down. But we ended up sessioning all 3 of those pieces, knowing that we wanted to put this all together on a final run at some point. I didn't want to say it out loud, but in my head, I was like, it would be nice to get this on Sunday. And that's exactly what happened. We put together the transition. We put together the step down. We sessioned all 5 jumps into it, but we didn't do the whole thing. We saved that for Sunday. And I got to tell you, Danny, what a special moment. I mean, it really was. I don't know. It really was, man.
Yeah. We took a look at Nico's drop, which is the rocky drop. And then it's rocky. The drop itself is not big.
No,
it's rocky. And then it smooths out for a second. And you really just have to not look at the rocks. I did look at the rocks. We sessioned it and I messed it up. But it was a slow motion fall. It was very silly.
It was.
And got right back up. And I said, let me just follow you, Sage. And you flew through it. And your whole thing is just float over those rocks. And wherever this thing puts you out, then you do the drop from there, because you can't really pick a line. And so I did that and I felt fine. So, all right, we're going to do the whole thing. And, we've been riding at Mount Penn for so long, and we've ridden Skyline so many times. We rode it before it was Skyline. We rode it when it was A-Line, and it was a whole different trail.
That's right.
But we've been doing the drop for a long time. We've been doing Nico's drop for a long time. We just had never been able to do everything else. And yeah, it was pretty magical. It was pretty magical doing the whole thing. It was exhausting. We had been on the bike for like 3 hours at that point. So we're doing laps and we had already done all that tech. But hey, fitness is cool. Like, if you're not on an e-bike, fitness is cool, because we felt strong enough to keep climbing up and doing that. It was so much fun. And what did we did 2 full runs or 3 full runs? I think
we did 2 full runs. Yeah. One with me in the front and one with you in the front. And, let's drop into my gratitude. Let's drop into gratitudes, because my gratitude is exactly this. It's Skyline.
Okay.
And the reason why it's my gratitude isn't because of Dirt Sculpt, who I love, and it isn't because of Bamba, who I love, and we've talked to, and we've given them our gratitude before. My gratitude is for Skyline and what it's meant to you and me, and how we started this summer and this journey together. And I got to tell you, the funniest part looking back at it was we actually both failed on Skyline on that full run. Yeah, you did your silly mistake on Nico's drop, but I made a silly mistake at the very top as well. I was gunning it. And what was really funny was that it was right on brand. You typically have a commitment issue in just committing to this thing, and that's where you screwed up. And I have an overconfidence issue where I'm like, I know this trail. I went at it. I hit a rock, dead stop, 30-0 in like no seconds. It was terrible. And I look back on it.
It's unbelievable that you didn't, like, I rode up on you. He was going so fast. I couldn't keep up.
Chicken.
And then all of a sudden, like, if I was going as fast as you, I would have run over you because you came to a complete stop so quickly and you were stuck on your bike. And I was just like, you were fine. I was like, I don't understand how you're okay. I fell at 0 miles per hour and you fell at 30 miles per hour. And I'm the one who walks away with new bruises? But gratitude.
Gratitude.
We're the kind of guys that we don't fall off our bikes, but when we do, we don't get hurt.
It was right on brand. It was right on brand. I love that happened. I mean, I don't enjoy getting hurt. I don't enjoy seeing you get hurt, but I love that was part of our journey. I love that was part of our experience. It was like the universe was like, okay, I'm going to give you Skyline.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also want you to.
You guys are unlimited, but you're still Dan and Sage. You're still a couple of idiots. You're unlimited idiots.
Yes.
It was on brand.
But it was. And you know what? I'll never forget that feeling of getting down to the road and just seeing your face and feeling my face. No, seeing your face and just, my
face was not feeling your face. That sounds weird. My face, you saw my face. It wasn't anywhere near Sage's face. His eyeball saw my face. And he was also smiling.
I gotta tell you, my ex-wife would always tell me I knew how to kill a moment. I don't know how to I'm terrible at killing a moment, but that moment was something. Getting down to the road for the first time. And I just remember just feeling an immense amount of gratitude and more than anything, I was happy that I did it with you because we started that journey together, and it was great to kind of cap it off. So love you, man.
I love you, and I love that trail, and I love mountain biking and the progression and the sense of accomplishment after. I mean, just really, we've said this so many times this summer as we're starting to jump and as we're getting better at jumping, and it's like, who are we? Who are we? We're not who we thought we were. We're not, and I love that. We're not who we thought we were. We are much, much more. We are whoever we want to be. Listener, you are unlimited. You are who you want to be. And Sage and I decided that we wanted to be good jumpers, and we wanted to get good at jumping, and we want to be pro-level mountain bikers. Then we are. We are doing that. And so, if a couple of idiots like us can learn how to jump our mountain bikes in our late 40s, you could learn it. You could learn it. Or you can get better at it, or you can whatever it is on your bucket list, whatever it is, whether it be on or off the bike, it's just like anything is possible, and it's just really cool. And it was just a really unbelievable moment that both of us cleared all these jumps. So it's an awesome trail. It was an awesome sense of accomplishment. It was so cool to do it together as two guys that didn't know how to jump, and to have the kind of the end of the summer to kind of put a bow tie on this, and say, we got the whole thing. We did the whole thing, top to bottom, and that was very cool. And it's an awesome trail. So my mountain bike gratitude of the week is going to be something that I've used before, and I just have to use it again because the guys at my local bike shop at Keswick Cycle in Paoli are just so freaking cool and so good to me, and they just get it. They got my bike fixed. I did updates to my dirt jumper, which looks awesome. And so they have mechanics there that really know. Corey, he really knows what he's talking about. The recommendations he was making, this is what you need, and I'll get this for you. You need to buy this. I'm bringing it to the shop, and I'm like, oh, by the way, I needed it by this time, and he was like, okay, and it's done a day early. So if you're in the Paoli area for any reason, or if you live in this area, they're certainly worth going out of your way for too, especially if you want a specialized bike. But their shop is great. They just really know what they're doing. We demoed the e-bikes there before, and they were really cool about that. So it's a good shop, but mostly what makes a good shop is good people. And I really appreciate how cool those guys have always been. So gratitude to all the guys working at Keswick Cycles in Paoli. Thank you.
I love it, man. I'm glad that they always take care of you. And they have a couple locations, by the way. It's not just Paoli. They have Glenside and something somewhere else, right? What was it?
They have a
Glenside,
Philadelphia
Paoli,
one. Yeah, they have
Philadelphia.
they have one in the city as well. Yep.
Yeah, so there's one near you if you're in the tri-state area, and definitely check them out. My mountain bike tip is something that I had to utilize on 38 Special, and I know we gave a tip on trail standing before, and the tip before was pick a spot and stare at the spot, and that will help you to focus your trail stand. Tip number 2 on the trail stand.
Fast. A trail stand is not when you're not moving, right?
That's right.
Bouncing on your bike without pedaling. Okay.
That's right. So you'd come to a stop on the trail, basically. That's why they call it trail stand. And then you kind of like stay stationary in a spot. And the trail stand is really handy for a million different scenarios when you're mountain biking. You know, if you don't want to get off your pedals.
Track stand.
In road biking, it's called a track stand. That's correct. The second tip is find a small incline. And what you want to do is if you're practicing a trail stand, use the incline. And what you want to do is ratchet your pedals back and forth. Your bike is going to rock back and forth ever so slightly. It'll also get you comfortable with rolling your pedals backwards a little bit. So that's my mountain bike tip. I don't know if you have anything to add to that one.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. I think that the incline is going to help you because you're going to be able to put pressure onto the pedals without moving forward. So that's where the incline comes in handy. And then you can also, when you graduate from that, then you're going to you can go to flat ground and you're going to use your brakes. So you have your brakes on to provide the tension. And then eventually you're going to get to a spot where you don't need brakes and you're just putting the right amount of pressure into that front foot. Yeah. And maybe you're turning the front wheel a little bit as you're balancing your weight.
Absolutely. Right? Yes. Yeah. I always turn my front wheel. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But it comes I mean, it's a great thing to practice in your driveway or in the parking lot before or after a ride. Just anytime that you stop, if someone's fixing the tire and they don't need your help, you know, like you can hop on your bike and do some trail stands. It does take a little bit of effort. There's a little bit of energy in there, but it's just a great tool to have in your belt. And you can do it before a drop where you need to peek over.
Right.
But you can certainly do it also at other times, you know, when you're in tech and you get offline and you just need to like stop and look around and figure out where you want your line to be. There's so many times that it comes in handy to be able to just stop, look around. And then, you know, then the next level is to be able to pick up your front tire and move it where you want, or pick up your back tire and move it where you want. And that's starting to move into the trial skills a little bit, or move or hop, right? I can't do a hop. Can you do the like a full come to a stop and then hop your bike forward or backwards?
I think I can I can't do it well, but that is a skill that I am working on that's more of a child's
I've seen you
move.
do things like that. Yeah.
Yes. So, but I'm nowhere near the level I want to be, but that is something that I practice on the trail and in the parking lot actively. I was going to bring up one more scenario. Yeah, it is. What if the rider in front of you goes down?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I've used the trail stand many times, you know, and then while they're like picking their bike up, or now you're scoping a new line to get around them, you know, like the trail stand is so handy. It might be the number one mountain bike skill. I don't know.
Well, let's start a new podcast.
Controversy.
Welcome back. We're going to roll right into the next episode here. All right, double feature. All right, everybody. Well, if you're still listening, you are definitely one of us. You love mountain biking, and we appreciate it. Gratitude to our listeners and appreciation. And go ahead and rate and subscribe on your podcast player, and give us a thumbs up on YouTube, and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Do all those things to help the algorithm. We appreciate it. Everyone have a fantastic week. Gratitude, ride and laugh.
I'll see you, everyone.